Review for The Long Riders, directed by Walter Hill. The origins, exploits, and ultimate fate of the Jesse James gang is told in a sympathetic portrayal of the bank robbers made up of brothers who began their legendary bank raids because of revenge. So this is a movie that I've never heard of, and just watched it. I really liked it. It's I'm a big fan of Walter Hill. I think he's a very underrated director. I mean, this is the guy that directed 48 Hours, another 48 Hours, Streets of Fire, Red Heat, Southern Comfort, The Warriors, The Driver, Hard Times. Um, he directed an episode of Deadwood too. That's interesting. Didn't know that. Which makes sense because I think his style is just kind of feels like very influenced by westerns. Even when he's not making a western, it kind of feels like it. It's kind of hard to put my finger on, but like Last Man Standing, that's kind of like a proto western. But anyway, so this is the Jesse James gang. It's an interesting tale of it. If you've seen the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Ford. Is it Robert Ford? Yeah, I think so. By the coward Robert Ford. Um, it has that scene in it, but the Fords aren't in it that much. Yeah, what's the exact title? And I'm a big fan of that movie. It's Robert Ford. I think in that movie his brother is played by yeah, Sam Rockwell. He's kind of portrayed as kind of crazy. Um, but it's an interesting movie because you have David Carradine, Keith Carradine, Stacy Keach, James Keach. James Keach is Jesse James. You have yeah, and then you have David Carradine, Robert Carradine. David Carradine's Cole Younger. Robert is Bob Younger. And Kevin Brophy is John Younger. Pamela Reed is let's say a lady of the night in a saloon, and of course she's in Kindergarten Cop. But anyways, I've never seen a movie that has this many brothers in it, like real life brothers. So I thought that was interesting. There's some good action. They rob a few banks. They're being chased by, I believe it's the U.S. Marshals, and um, and they kind of all rob banks, and then some of them go off and do their own thing. And they kind of come back together, rob some banks, and they kind of go off and do their own thing. Some of them stick together. Some of them go and they have a family. Um, it's just kind of an interesting movie that would never be made again, really. Dennis Quaid, Randy Quaid in it too. Early on, Dennis Quaid gets kicked out of the gang. Um, oh yeah, because they're robbing a bank and they know that there's no safe in the back. It's just like with the cash they have in the front. And he won't listen to them. They all know this. He doesn't believe the clerk, and the clerk's like, "Look, there is no safe." He doesn't care. He blows them away with, I think, which then causes some people to run out of the bank and alert the town. So then they are on the run and they get shot at, and it's all his fault. And he kills someone. He doesn't have to. So they get all pissed at him. And even Randy Quaid, who's his brother's like, "Well, hey man, you shouldn't have done that." And then they kick him out. And then later he kind of appears later. he's marrying this chick. He's marrying trying to find her name. She kind of looks like Sissy Spacek. But anyways, he's gonna marry her, but then I think it's one of the Carradines is interested in her, and he ends up stealing her from him, and he really hates them. I mean, maybe not his brother, but he hates a lot of them, and he is a beef. But then that kind of goes nowhere, and um, you know, um, spoilers. You know what happens? The Fords want to meet up with them. They do so in the beginning. They're like, "Hey, we're good with guns. We'll follow orders. We're like good soldiers, basically. We want to ride with you and rob banks." They don't really want that until much later in the movie, but then they get basically the U.S. Marshal makes them a deal to assassinate them, and they get paid money, and that's the assassination, which that scene's almost exactly done the same. So, um, yeah, I really like it. It seems like that really, and I don't know if this is true or what, but they're very successful. But then what happens is the area they're in gets too hot, with U.S. Marshals and everyone's looking for them. So then they go into, I think it's Montana, and they start robbing some banks up there, and they rob the wrong bank, and I don't know if the town's like waiting for them to rob the bank or but yeah, I like the movie. There's a pretty cool um knife fight between David Carradine and James Remar. He was in The Warriors, of course, and other Walter Hill movies, another 48 Hours, who just kind of shows up for that one scene because he's with, I think, with Pamela Reed and David Carradine doesn't like that, so they fight each other. I've never seen this before in any Western, but I don't know if this was a thing back then, but they had like a not a rope, but like a piece of cloth that's long, and then what they would each bite each end, and they both pull their knives out, and then they fight each other, and it's like you can't exit that area, which is like whatever 5 6 feet or something, or maybe maybe 10 feet, but and I don't know, that was kind of different. I've never seen that before. I wonder if that was actually a thing. Um, but yeah, it's a simple movie about them robbing banks and then go their separate ways. Some of them, go to drink and gamble. A lot of drinking in the movie, a lot of whiskey. But then they end up going to Montana, and that's where kind of all goes wrong because they rob this supposed to be this huge score. They rob this place, but the vault is time locked, and they can't open it, and it will only open at a certain time, and then they said that some of the town thought that they would be coming this way, so it's kind of a setup, and they steal the money that they can, and they run out of there, and a bunch of them get shot and killed. Pretty brutal shootout at the end. Very well done by Walter Hill and his crew. Um, so I really liked that. Pretty brutal. I think David Carradine gets shot tons of times. Um, Same with Keith Carradine, and spoilers, and Randy Quaid gets like a really bad gut shot, and then he ends up keeling over and dying later on. Because a lot of them do get out, but then he ends up just keeling over and dying. Stacy Keach and James Keach aren't that bad shot, and then they're like, "Well, we got to go," and so they kind of abandon them, and then the other ones end up getting caught by that U.S. Marshal, and they work with him. But then the U.S. Marshal just pays the Fords to basically assassinate him, and then they have dinner with him, and then kills him. So I know in the assassination of Jesse James, the Fords are with him longer. Maybe that's true. They were kind of friends with him, traveled with him from here to here, not consistently, but in this they kind of want to, but they're basically turned down. And then later, uh, Jesse James needs more men because a bunch of them are now dead, injured, or captured. So he says okay to the Fords, and that meets his end. So I tried to see, there was a Roger Ebert review of this, but couldn't find one. I thought maybe because it's Walter Hill, but no, I couldn't find one. Oh, originally Jeff Bridges and Beau Bridges are going to play the Ford brothers. They cannot fit it in their schedules. That's too bad, actually, because the people that play the Ford are brothers also. But I'd rather have that. The dude. So I'm trying to look at some trivia. Oh, in 1971, I should watch this. James and Stacy Keach both played the Wright brothers. This gave James the idea that they should play Jesse and Frank James in a movie together. Stacy financed James to write a country musical about the brothers, which was eventually produced in Pennsylvania and New York. The Keaches then decided to turn the musical into a feature film screenplay in which they both could star. In 1974, James was acting opposite of Richard Carradine or Robert Carradine in The Hatfields and McCoys, and mentioned the project to him. Carradine suggested he and his brothers play the younger brother, and the idea that all of the brothers in the story be played by real life brothers expanded. Dennis Quaid broke his nose during the making of this film, as he did 3 years later on Tough Enough. Wonder where he broke his nose. I think they punch him after he basically gets Jesse James shot in the arm in the beginning of the movie. So, but I think that's about it. Good movie. I liked it. It's not that long. It's like an hour 35 or something. So, if you're into Walter Hill movies, check it out. If you're into westerns, it's an interesting one. And I've never seen one before like this before, with all the different real life brothers. So, but yeah, the Long Riders. If you could do me a favor and smash that like button, that'd be great. Really helps with the channel. But yeah, another solid one from Walter Hill, I'd say. Underrated director, very talented. So, but that's about it. See you next time.